Standard 10th Science 2 subject, lesson number 2, life processes in living organisms. In this chapter, in the last video, we have seen aerobic respiration. Now next we are going to see anaerobic respiration in living organisms. The next slide is energy production in microorganisms through anaerobic respiration. Means we are going to see the process of anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic means respiration which takes place without oxygen, in absence of oxygen. In both the type of respiration, whether it is aerobic or anaerobic, energy is produced. In the next slide, you will see that there are some important points about anaerobic respiration in general. So first, which microorganisms or which living organisms carry out this anaerobic respiration? The living organisms that can live without oxygen, those will carry on this type of respiration. For some examples are bacteria, anaerobic bacteria. These are bacteria which some of them are useful, some of them are harmful, but in both the cases, when they carry out anaerobic respiration, they do not require oxygen. Then next point is glycolysis and fermentation are the two steps of aerobic respiration. When anaerobic respiration takes place, it takes place in two parts or in two steps. The first step is glycolysis, which we have seen in the last video, and second step will be fermentation. So what happens here is, we will talk about the first step, glycolysis. You have seen in the last video. Glycolysis, what happens in glycolysis? One molecule of glucose is oxidized completely to produce energy. Now, because here there is no oxygen, so here our oxygen level is very less, concentration of oxygen is very less, or it is not there in anaerobic respiration. So here in case of anaerobic respiration, glucose is oxidized to produce energy, but it is not completely oxidized. Glucose is incompletely oxidized, and because of this reason the amount of energy that is produced is very less. So in anaerobic respiration, the energy which is produced, it is very less, and the molecule that is required here is glucose, same as aerobic respiration, it is glucose. Then what happens is, when glucose is incompletely oxidized, the pyruvic acid which is produced after first step is completed, after the first step, that is glycolysis, when it is completed, pyruvic acid which is produced, it is converted into some other organic acids and alcohol, and due to this process, in this process some important enzymes are very useful. So this process is called as fermentation. What happens in fermentation is, first glucose is incompletely oxidized, then pyruvic acid which is formed, it is converted into organic acids or alcohols, mostly alcohols, and this process is done with the help of enzyme. So this entire process is nothing but fermentation. Now talking about some other living organisms which can do anaerobic respiration. Even in case of us, there are some times where anaerobic respiration takes place. Some higher plants and some microorganisms, in certain conditions, when in our surrounding the oxygen level is very low or oxygen is not available for some time, then in that case, sometimes even higher plants and animals like we also perform anaerobic respiration for some time. Here are two major examples. First example is in plants. The seed can perform anaerobic respiration when the seed is in the soil and it is submerged underwater. This usually happens during rainy season when there is too much of water on the land, in the soil, absorbed in the soil, and the seed is inside the soil and covered with water. In that case, no oxygen will be available for the seed, or very little will be available. In that case, this germinating seed can perform anaerobic respiration for some time. Talking about us human beings, our muscle cells, each and every part of our body is made up of cells. So our muscles are also made up of cells. Our muscle cells can perform anaerobic respiration when we are doing some physical exercise. Any type of exercise. It can be walking. If you are walking too much for a longer period of time, if you are running, climbing, or playing, in that case, our body muscles cells perform anaerobic respiration for some time. Why? Because in that case, the amount of oxygen that is required by our cell, it is not complete, it doesn't get the required amount of that much of oxygen. It gets less. The amount of oxygen which is available to our body cells, it becomes less in that case. And because what happens because of this? Because oxygen is less, muscle cells are performing anaerobic respiration, the amount of energy produced will be less, and so we feel tired. We feel little pain in our muscles after doing some exercise. And when muscle cells perform anaerobic respiration, lactic acid is accumulated. Accumulated means it is stored, it is formed and stored in our muscles. This also leads to tiredness, feeling of tiredness. In the next slide, you will see a flow chart that will help you understand anaerobic respiration, what we have seen just now. It will give you a glance of it. So, there are two major steps of anaerobic respiration. First is glycolysis and second is fermentation. See at the center of the flow chart, glycolysis, it starts with glucose. Glucose will undergo glycolysis. After glycolysis process is completed, pyruvic acid is formed. That pyruvic acid, now there are two chances. There are two things that can be produced when this pyruvic acid undergoes fermentation. In case of some anaerobic microorganisms, pyruvic acid, because of fermentation, gets converted into alcohol, and in some cases, pyruvic acid undergoes fermentation and forms lactic acid. Now, the first one, where pyruvic acid after fermentation will get converted into alcohol, this happens in case of yeast. And lactic acid is formed in our muscles and erythrocytes. Erythrocytes means red blood cells, RBCs. So this is difference between fermentation. Just it depends upon the end product. Now see at the center of the flow chart, after glycolysis there is one more chance where pyruvic acid will undergo into fermentation and it will get converted into some products which are useful, like vinegar, vitamins, some organic acids. So this type of fermentation happens in some other microorganisms apart from yeast, some other like bacteria, anaerobic bacteria. So this flow chart tells you about anaerobic respiration, 2 steps, glycolysis and fermentation. When in case of anaerobic microorganisms, 3 different products can be formed after the 2 steps. After glycolysis and fermentation, 3 different products can be formed: alcohol, lactic acid, and some vitamins, organic acids and vinegar. So alcohol is formed after fermentation by yeast. Lactic acid is formed after fermentation in muscle cells, human muscle cells, erythrocytes, and products like vitamins and vinegars are formed after fermentation in case of some other anaerobic microorganisms. The next slide is energy production from some other food components. Food components means food nutrients. Now, till now in this chapter, we have seen that energy is produced after respiration. In some organisms, it is aerobic respiration. In some organisms, anaerobic respiration. But in both the cases, energy is produced. And we have seen that energy, the main source is glucose, which is a type of carbohydrate. But when we eat our food, we don't just get carbohydrate, we also get some other important components or nutrients like proteins, vitamins, lipids, fats from our food. So these nutrients also help us to give us energy when enough carbohydrate is not present in our body cells. So we are going to see those components. The first component or nutrient that helps us to get energy is proteins. Now, what happens is sometimes when other sources of energy are available like lipids and proteins, then in that case extra or excess carbohydrate is stored in our liver and muscles, and it is stored in the form of glycogen. Extra carbohydrate is converted into glycogen, and this glycogen is stored in our liver and muscles so that later on when we are starving or when we don't have enough source of energy, that time this glycogen can be used by our cells to make energy. Now, when this glycogen is stored, then our body cells will start using some other components for producing energy. So, in case of proteins, we are going to see how much energy we get and how. Proteins, whenever any component is used to produce energy, remember it has to be digested. That component, that nutrient has to be completely digested. So proteins are what? They are not the basic form. They are not the simple form. Proteins are complex molecules. They are macromolecules. You will see a word in the slide, macromolecules. Macro means some big complex structure, and these proteins are formed by joining or bonding together different amino acids in proper sequence. So when proteins will be digested, we will get amino acids. So proteins of animal origin means proteins that we get from animals. They are called as first class proteins. And when proteins are used for energy production, we get 4 kilocalories of energy from every gram of proteins. Amino acids which we get after digestion of proteins. See, proteins are made up of amino acids. So if proteins will be digested, different amino acids will be separated. So these amino acids which are available after digestion of protein, they are transported to different organs and cells inside our body through our blood. And these amino acids are then used to make some other useful proteins which are necessary to bring about some important processes inside our body. If you all remember central dogma, the mRNA is formed from the information of DNA, then different amino acids are brought in by the tRNA, they are arranged, and then a new protein is formed which will be useful for doing important process inside our body. So like this, some amino acids which we do not get from our food, they are produced inside our cell. And how it is done? With the help of these amino acids. Now here's a diagram, it is in your book also, where they have given you a short idea about what amino acids are useful inside our body for doing different things. So at the center you will see amino acids, means different amino acids, and in which body part they are useful and for what they are useful. See the first one on top, skin, melanin and keratin. Melanin and keratin are two different types of proteins inside our skin, and they play a very important role when you talk about this complexion, the color of the skin and the texture of the skin. Melanin is a very important pigment inside for our skin. People who lack melanin, people who do not have melanin production inside their skin cells, they are very much easily prone to skin diseases. Even harmful diseases like skin cancer. Their skin cannot tolerate too much of heat of the sun. Next, in the bones, ossin. Amino acids are used for producing bone protein ossin. In the cells, various proteins of cell membrane and various enzymes. Our body cells, all cells, they all have cell membrane. Cells of any part and every part, it will have cell membrane. So when a cell membrane is produced of a new cell, for making that cell membrane and for making different types of enzymes, these amino acids are very important. In the pancreas, inside the pancreas, amino acids are useful for making insulin and trypsin. These are again very important protein molecules. They regulate our metabolism. Metabolism means when your food gets digested, the glucose is being used, which is present inside our blood. Extra glucose is stored as glycogen. This is a very important process. There are many people, in case of them, the pancreatic cells or the pancreas cannot produce required amount of insulin, or it is produced in very less amount, insulin and trypsin. In that case, the glucose doesn't get used for making energy. It doesn't get converted into glycogen, but it remains as glucose in the blood. It is unused, and in that case that is problematic. Nowadays people suffer with blood sugar. You must have heard, it is actually called as diabetes. In commonly people call it as blood sugar. Blood sugar is high, blood sugar is low. So that is because they, in their cases, in such people, the pancreatic cells cannot make or produce insulin and trypsin in required amounts, especially insulin. Next, pituitary gland, a very important gland of our body. I hope you all remember. So for making different hormones, it is the master gland. It produces maximum number of hormones and important hormones. So for producing all those important hormones, the pituitary gland requires amino acids. In the muscles, actin and myosin are two types of proteins present inside our muscle cells, and these actin and myosin help our muscle fibers, help our muscles to do the required movement. If actin and myosin are not present, then our muscles will not move, they will not show any movement. And if muscles do not show any movement, we will not be able to use our body parts, we will not be able to do any movement. Talking about blood, the hemoglobin is a protein molecule, and the antibodies both are very important, and to make them, to produce them, amino acids are important. The next slide is what happens to the excess amino acids. Just now we have seen uses of amino acids. Suppose after using amino acids, some amino acids are still present in our blood, they are extra. So what happens to such excess or extra amino acids? Like we have seen extra glucose, it is stored in the liver. In case of amino acids, usually amino acids which are extra are not stored in the body, they are immediately broken down into ammonia, and then they are eliminated out of the body through urine. The extra amino acids, they are broken down and then they form ammonia, and then they are thrown out, eliminated out of the body. Sometimes, if necessary, then extra protein, before the protein is digested and amino acids are formed, before that, if protein itself is extra, then it is converted into glucose by a process called as gluconeogenesis. This is not very common process, rarely it happens. Sometimes if there is extra protein available which is not broken down into amino acids, then this protein is converted into glucose, and this process is called as gluconeogenesis. And then this glucose which is formed after this process, then that glucose is used for making energy. It can be by aerobic respiration or anaerobic respiration. Talking about plants, yes, plants also produce some important necessary amino acids by using minerals, and then they use these amino acids for making different proteins. Here you will see a word which is called as plants produce necessary amino acids from minerals de novo. De novo means to make something new, something from the very beginning. That means plants get minerals, right? Plants get minerals along with water. So they use these minerals to make amino acids. They do not get ready-made amino acids. They make amino acids, and then they use these amino acids for making useful proteins. So de novo means from the very beginning. An example of such a useful protein in plants is an enzyme called as Rubisco. This enzyme is a protein present in the plant inside the chloroplast. And it is said that this protein which is present in the chloroplast, it is present in abundant in the nature. Okay, because there are more, there will be, if there will be more plants, more Rubisco will be present. So it is present in abundant. Abundant means very high concentration. Next component that is used for producing energy is lipids. See, we have seen just now, if glucose is not available, if carbohydrate is not available, then proteins can be used for making energy. Next component is lipids. First we will see what are lipids made up of, because then we will understand when they are digested what do we get. So lipids are substances which are formed by forming a chemical bond between fatty acids and alcohols. Fatty acids and alcohols are small molecules. When they chemically bond, they form lipids. So lipid is a complex component. When lipids are digested, they are converted into fatty acids and alcohols, because they are made up of fatty acids and alcohol. So when they are digested, the bonds are broken down and we get fatty acids and alcohols. These fatty acids which we get from lipids, they are absorbed and distributed everywhere inside our body to different cells. And these fatty acids then are used by our cells to produce the necessary required substance whichever the cell requires. Fatty acids are also useful in making cell membrane. Example of where the fatty acids are useful: the molecules called as phospholipids are present in our plasma membrane, and these phospholipids are formed from fatty acids. Phospholipid is an important molecule which is present in the plasma membrane, and these phospholipids we do not get directly from any source, but they are produced by our cells from the fatty acids. Next example: fatty acids are useful for producing some hormones like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, aldosterone. These are some important names. These are names of some important hormones, and for making these hormones, our glands, they require fatty acids. Very important, another important use of fatty acid is the covering of the axon. It also has fatty acids. Axon, if you all remember, the structure of nerve cell, the elongated part of our nerve cell, that has a protective covering, and that protective covering is made with the help of fatty acids. So when lipids are used for producing energy, lipids give us 9 kilocalories of energy. That means lipids give us higher amount of energy as compared to carbohydrate. What happens to the extra lipids or excess of lipids? They are stored in our adipose tissues. Inside our body there are types of tissues, out of which one type is adipose tissue. So these adipose tissue, they store extra lipids. Next component or next nutrient which is used by our cells to produce energy is vitamins. Vitamins, when you talk about vitamins, vitamins is a group of nutrients. In this group there are different types of vitamins. So it is a group of heterogeneous compounds. Heterogeneous means different types of compounds, and each type is very important for proper functioning of our various body processes. Whatever process takes place inside our body, vitamins are required in very less amount, but they are very important. Lack of vitamin inside the body can lead to very serious medical problems. So vitamins are very important. There are 6 types of vitamins, main 6 type of vitamins: vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E and K. Out of this, vitamin A, D, E and K are fat soluble. Means these vitamins will be useful to our cells only when fat is available. They will dissolve, they will become soluble in fats, and then they can be useful to our cells. And vitamin B and C, these two vitamins are water soluble. They require water. They will dissolve in the water inside the body, and then they will be useful to our cells. Now we will see that, if you all remember, in the process of aerobic respiration, FADH2 and NADH2 molecules were produced in glycolysis and Krebs cycle. So for formation of these two important coenzymes, vitamins play a very important role. Vitamins like vitamin B2, which is called as riboflavin. Vitamin B2 is called as riboflavin, and vitamin B5 is called as nicotinamide. They are necessary for production of FADH2 and NADH2 in glycolysis and Krebs cycle. If these two vitamins are not present inside our body, or they are not available to our cells, then FADH2 and NADH2 will not be formed in the process of glycolysis and Krebs cycle, and then the process will be incomplete. The next slide is about water and fibers. Now actually, when we talk about food components or nutrients, we usually talk about proteins, carbohydrates and vitamins, but water is equally important. Why? Because 65 to 75% inside our body water is present. Our body is made up of 70% of the water. So that means what? Each cell inside our body will have 65 to 70% water, weight by weight. Blood plasma. Our blood is, if you all remember, we have studied the composition of blood. Blood is made up of plasma and blood cells. So this blood plasma contains 90% of the water. 90%. So water is so important for our body. Then functioning of various cells, proper functioning of various cells, and the proper overall functioning of the whole body. It can get disturbed if there is loss of water from our body. If our body is lacking the required percentage of water, then even the functioning of cells can get damaged. Water is so important. So it is one of the important components, though it doesn't give us energy, but still that is why we say water is important for survival. Coming next to fibers. Now fiber actually is never considered as an important nutrient, but it is important. Why? Because understand, the main basic reason or basic function, major function of fiber is removal of waste material from the body. Whatever food is digested, it is not completely digested. Some undigested part of food, unwanted part of food remains, which is considered as waste. It should not be there inside our body, so we call it as metabolic waste. That has to be removed from our body, and that work is done with the help of fibers. Fibers actually we get from our food, and they are not something that can be digested. Fibers are not actually digested, but they help in digestion and removing undigested substances or unwanted waste material. Fibers, a good source of fibers are fruits, cereals, green leafy vegetables. These are major sources of fiber.